April 4, 2025, China announces export controls on 7 categories of rare earth minerals. The announcement is 2 paragraphs: bureaucratic, dry, routine sounding. Within 48 hours, Lockheed Martin flags supply chain risk. Raytheon issues an internal review. The Pentagon begins emergency assessments. Because those 7 categories of minerals, they are inside every F-35 fighter jet, every Tomahawk cruise missile, every guided weapon system the United States military depends on. With 2 paragraphs, China had pressed a button, and the entire American defense industrial base felt the tremor. You've heard of lithium, the battery mineral, the reason we're fighting over Bolivia and Chile and Argentina. But lithium is just the beginning. There are 17 elements buried in the periodic table that most people have never heard of: neodymium, dysprosium, terbium, praseodymium, yttrium, lanthanum, rare earth elements. They are not rare. The name is misleading. They exist across the planet. But processing them, refining them into usable materials, that is extraordinarily difficult, toxic, expensive, technically demanding. And that is exactly why only one country does it at scale. These minerals are inside your phone's vibration motor, inside every EV engine on Earth, inside every wind turbine, inside every precision-guided weapon, inside the F-35's airframe, inside the magnets that make modern warfare possible. Without rare earths, the green energy revolution is impossible. Without rare earths, the next generation of military technology doesn't exist. Without rare earths, your phone is a slab of glass. And right now, one country controls the processing of 60% of them. This didn't happen by accident. Deng Xiaoping said it in 1992. The Middle East has oil, China has rare earths. He said it like a fact, like it was already decided. Then China spent 30 years making it true, not through conquest, not through sanctions, through patience. China subsidized its rare earth mining industry until it could undercut every competitor on Earth. American rare earth mines? Closed. Australian operations? Scaled back. European processing? Abandoned. Because why compete when China is selling the same material at a fraction of the cost? The West chose cheap. China chose dominance. By 2010, China controlled 80% of global rare earth production. Today, after 2 decades of Western panic and investment, after billions of dollars in government programs, after promises of supply chain diversification, China still controls 60% of mining and over 80% of processing. The mining you can move. The processing, almost nobody else knows how to do it. This is not a warning about the future. This already happened. And you can tell because China has already used it. September 7, 2010, the South China Sea. A Chinese fishing trawler collides with 2 Japanese Coast Guard vessels. Japan arrests the captain. China's response is immediate. Diplomatic protests. Then something else. Rare earth shipments to Japan. Stopped. No announcement, no formal embargo. Just stopped. Japan, the world's second-largest economy at the time, went into quiet panic. Because Japanese manufacturers depended on Chinese rare earths for everything. Electronics, hybrid vehicles, precision manufacturing. Sony, Toyota, Honda, Panasonic. All of them. Within weeks, Japan released the captain. Diplomatic relations restored. Rare earth shipments resumed. Nobody called it what it was. It was a demonstration, a message sent to every industrialized nation on Earth. We can turn this off, and there is nothing you can do about it. The world took note, and then went back to depending on China anyway. 15 years later, they did it again. But this time, the target was bigger: the United States. In April 2025, as the US-China trade war escalated to tariff rates not seen since the 1930s, China announced export controls on rare earth processing materials. Not a total ban, a licensing requirement. Every shipment requires government approval, which means China decides, case by case, company by company, shipment by shipment. It is not a wall, it is a valve, and China controls the pressure. The targets are precise: dysprosium and terbium, the magnets in F-35s and Tomahawks; samarium used in precision-guided missile systems; yttrium critical for radar and night vision. These are not consumer goods. These are the inputs that allow the United States to project military force anywhere on Earth. And China has just put a licensing requirement on every single one of them. This is economic warfare, conducted in the language of bureaucracy, with deniability built in. The obvious answer seems simple: mine your own. Build your own processing facilities. End the dependence. Here is why that answer ignores reality. Mining rare earths produces radioactive byproducts: thorium, uranium. Processing them requires containment facilities that almost no Western nation has built, or wants to build, near any population center. Building a rare earth processing facility from scratch takes 10 to 15 years, minimum. The United States has one operating rare earth mine, Mountain Pass, California. It sends its ore to China for processing. Australia has increased production, but its ore, largely processed in China. Canada, Brazil, Greenland. The minerals exist. The processing infrastructure does not. You don't win a resource war by finding the ore. You win it by controlling what happens to it next. China understood this in 1992. The West is only beginning to understand it now. And the clock is running. Now connect it. The lithium triangle: Bolivia, Chile, Argentina. The raw material for the battery. The rare earth belt: China, Inner Mongolia, Sichuan, Jiangxi. The materials that make the battery work. The motor that drives the EV, the magnet that guides the missile. On one side of the equation, China controls the processing. On the other side, China moved into the lithium triangle while the West was staging coups and arguing about contracts. KTL, BYD, Ganfeng Lithium, now operating in Bolivia, Chile, Argentina. Raw material: China. Processing: China. Battery manufacturing: China. EV assembly: China. The entire supply chain. From the ground to the car. From the mine to the missile. This is not dominance of one resource. This is control of the entire industrial future. Here is what this means. The United States is currently spending trillions on the largest military buildup since the Cold War. Aircraft carriers, hypersonic missiles, next-generation fighter jets. And every single one of those weapons depends on minerals that China can restrict with a 2-paragraph announcement. The most powerful military in human history, dependent on the supply chain of its primary adversary. You cannot build a weapon to deter China using minerals that China controls. This is the contradiction at the center of 21st century geopolitics. And it is not a future problem. It is the present reality. The resource war didn't start when China pressed a button in April 2025. It started in 1992, when a man said 4 words: China has rare earths. He wasn't making a claim. He was making a promise. Now you know. The lithium coup was one move in this game. The rare earth monopoly is the board itself. The next video goes deeper into the 5 countries that are fighting to break China's grip, and why most of them are already losing. Subscribe. This story is far from over.